Every October, a child in a synthetic cape arrives at a porch decorated with glowing gourds and plastic remains, extending a bucket for mass-produced sugar. All these combined elements are logically inconsistent. We spend an evening carving vegetables, begging neighbors for candy, and glorifying monsters without clear reason. Halloween exists as a layered composite of ancient religious rites, defunct empires, and 20th century commercial strategies. Tracing the lineage of the mask, the pumpkin, and the candy reveals the specific historical pressures that forced these traditions together. Stripping away the modern plastic reveals a 2,000-year history of human adaptation and survival. The habit of dressing as ghouls and monsters began as something far more practical than a party aim. 2 millennia ago, the Celtic festival of Samhain marked the end of the harvest. The Celts believed that during this transition, the boundary, or veil, between the living and the dead became permeable, allowing spirits to cross into our world. Because these wandering spirits were blamed for damaging winter crops, the Celts covered their faces with ash and wore animal pelts. This was survival camouflage, used to trick malevolent entities into thinking the humans were fellow spirits. Over centuries, this primal fear softened into an aesthetic choice. By the Victorian era, the Gothic Revival had transformed the literal dread of spirits into a romantic fascination with the macabre. By the 1970s, modern horror cinema provided a new, mass-produced template for these anxieties, turning ancient fears into recognizable cinematic icons. Today's retail masks are the direct descendants of ash and animal skins, once used to hide from the dark. The tradition of carding gourds stems from the Irish myth of Stingy Jack, a man condemned to wander the earth with only a glowing coal for light. To ward Jack off, people in Ireland and Scotland carved severe, terrifying faces into hollowed-out turnips. This tradition was exported to America during the mid-19th century, as the Irish potato famine forced millions of people to flee their homes. In North America, these immigrants found the native pumpkin. It was larger, softer, and significantly easier to hollow out than a rigid root vegetable. A catastrophic famine and a change in geography permanently shifted the primary visual mascot. The modern social contract of trick-or-treat is a relatively new solution to a very old problem. In the Middle Ages, the poor practiced souling, knocking on doors to offer prayers for a family's dead in exchange for small pastries called soul cakes. By the early 20th century, this had devolved into Mischief Night, where youth groups engaged in widespread vandalism and property damage under the guise of holiday fun. To stop the damage, civic leaders introduced organized community parades and parties. They deliberately redirected the holiday's energy towards children to keep teenagers occupied. During the post-war suburban boom, the candy industry capitalized on this new child-centric holiday, replacing homemade treats and coins with mass-produced sugar. The modern ritual is the result of medieval alms, 1930s crowd control, and mid-century marketing. Seen through 2,000 years of history, this uniform suburban scene reveals a persistent human pattern. Despite Roman conquest, past Christian assimilation, and corporate branding, the underlying structure of the ancient harvest festival remains. As the seasons change, the core impulse to acknowledge the approach of winter and the reality of darkness has not disappeared. The holiday persists because it provides a socially sanctioned way to manage the transition from the light half of the year to the dark. The plastic masks and processed sugar are simply the newest tools in a very old effort to light a lantern against the cold.